Hey y'all, this is Marley K. Hope you all are well. I have a video that I'm going to talk to you about today from Coin Bureau. And the title of this series that I'm going to do, going to be the infrastructure of the beast system, because we're getting ready to have to get this mark. And you're going to have to make a choice. And that's those of us, if you're a believer, you understand. If you're not a believer, you may not understand. And everything that they're doing is based on what's in the Bible. These people understand this world is coming to an end. Satan knows he does not have that much time left. And so what they're doing is trying to finish out prophecy. They've done everything they can do. They've enslaved us African Americans for 400 years. The 400-year curse on us was broken in 2019, and since then, all hell broke loose. So, you can look at it from a natural eye and say, oh, well, that's really far-fetched. But if you're a believer, you understand exactly what's happening. The curse has been broken. African American people are waking up to who we are. We're the only people in the world who didn't know where we were, where we came from, who we were. And now we understand why. We are from many of us, not all, but many of us are from the tribe of Judah. And if you understand anything about the children of Israel and the tribe of Judah particularly, you understand we were the chosen people. So things are going to happen to us before, the end comes. We're going to go through a little something, but everything that's happening is about us. It is about the end of the world. That's why these folks are trying to get up in space. They're trying to go to Mars. They're trying to find new solar systems. They're trying to do everything to escape their judgment. In the meantime, there's prophecy still has to take place, and this infrastructure has to be built in order to get people to worship the beast or take the mark of the beast. And so I'm going to read these two scriptures to you. Then I'm going to get into Coin Bureau's video, because this ESG system, or the ESG regulations that are coming on, really bring it home. And hopefully you will be able to see it. If not, this is going to be a series. So I'm going to do a 3-part series. This is the first part. It may have 4 parts, but right now it's going to have 3. So I'm going to do this part because it kind of lays out the foundation for the infrastructure of how this system of buying and selling and worship will take place. So let's start with the scripture. So Revelations 13:7 says, let me blow it up a little bit. So that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. This has confounded people forever. I understand it. During the lollipop, that was a test run. People were persecuted in a different type of way, socially. If you did not get the lollipop, you couldn't go in stores, you couldn't work, you couldn't shop if you needed groceries. You were basically quarantined to your house, either financially because you couldn't afford to do anything because you didn't have any money, or because you wouldn't take the lollipop if you did have money, and so you couldn't go anyplace. So a lot of people escaped to places where you didn't have to have the lollipop. And so they had a little freedom. But in the process, In the rebellion, they may have spread the lollipop. The lollipop was going to spread anyway because there was no universal way to stop it. And because of just how this infectious disease came to be, we will never know if it was unleashed on us intentionally or not. So the trial run was the lollipop. Something else is coming. They're already telling you there's something big coming in by 2025. They may unleash it a little early because we waking up to the BS, but we don't know. But again, they're going to do another dry run as they develop these infrastructures. So I want you to be aware of what's happening. This system, it says the name of the beast is going to be the system or the number of his name, which is going to be your digital ID. It's going to be a number. Everybody going to have a number, some type of identifying code, whether it's a QR code. It's either going to be a QR code, but it has to be digital. And you're going to have to show it to go everywhere. They've been working on different methods of tracking us already. And so I'm going to be spending a lot of time this year talking about how we're being tracked, because it's really important for you to understand that these folks are serious about the system, and it's far ahead of what we think it is. We don't have long to make choices and get our lives set up in such a way that we can be self-sufficient. All right, Revelation 14:11. And the smoke of their torment will rise forever and ever. And that's the smoke of torment because you're going to go to hell if you take this mark. There will be no rest day or night for those who worship the beast and its image. Worship the beast. That's where the final frontier is. Or for anyone who receives the mark of its name. And the mark will be this system. If you take the mark of this system, you will be tormented forever and ever. That's scripture. God said what he said. All right, so let's get into this Coin Bureau ESG regulations, because this is the infrastructure for this system. And you will hear a lot about buying and selling, a lot about money, a lot of control. And even in this video, there is something in here about Sunday worship, and it's tied to an eco Sabbath. If you know anything about the Sabbath is not Sunday. The Sabbath is supposed to be Saturday. Rome made the Sabbath Sunday for Christians. And so a lot of the world worships the beast on Sunday. They don't know it, but we'll get into that in the next session, because that's why I'm going to bring in somebody who can talk about it more eloquently than I can. I'm not an expert. I can just tell you the blackety black way. I don't want to do that with God's word. So I'm going to keep it pushing. But anyway, let's get into this ESG regulations, and I'm going to break it down for y'all.
ESG regulations that label food production as high risk. Sounds crazy, right?
They don't want us to eat. That's why it is really important for you to grow your own food. Like literally. Put your hands in some dirt and grow your food. Because I promise you, these people who control the food will control the people.
Well, in January, the EU's controversial ESG regulations came into force, and they've been described by their proponents as the most ambitious yet. And if that wasn't crazy enough, the provisions in the regulations don't just apply to companies in the EU. They apply to non EU companies which work with EU companies and possibly even to consumers as well.
All right. This is where the mark is coming in. So, did you hear that? So, it's not here yet, it's in the EU already. That means their system is ready to go. They're laying the foundation here. This is why they are laying down all these fiber optic lines, giving everybody broadband, free internet access. This is why they want to make sure the kids can do the work from school. Businesses had to get online, all these loans, PPP loans for your business to get your business um, up to date, pay your employees higher wages. It's all psychological and financial. And fear is a factor, but also finances will be a factor. And you're going to hear that theme throughout. But it's coming here, and they're going to try to roll it out soon. But something big and bad has to happen before they can do it. So that's why I keep drilling into you, prepare.
Today, I'm going to explain the EU's ESG directive, tell you which provisions are most troubling, and reveal why the elites are so obsessed with ESG. Firstly, a bit of a recap. ESG stands for Environmental, Social and Governance, and it defines an investment trend that's been pushed by financial elites since the start of the pandemic.
Okay, so this is where I keep telling you about the climate agenda, the climate agenda. That's BS. So you notice that the first thing is environmental. That is the priority. Their priority is to allegedly care for the environment. The corporations do it though, not us, and not them stopping doing what they're doing. It's reverse psychology. Basically, it's reverse psychology and gaslighting. They created the problems, but they're blaming us for the problem. They're going to punish us for the stuff that they did and the lies that they told and the government regulations that were passed to help the businesses, and punish us by taking away our basic needs for survival and controlling them. The social piece is really the experiment that was done during the pandemic. All this pressure from businesses, family, friends, the governments. If you didn't do this, you couldn't go here. If you didn't take the lollipop, you couldn't go to people's houses. If you didn't take the lollipop, you couldn't work, you'd get fired. People were kicked out of the military. People were, fired from their jobs, even healthcare workers, because they knew that stuff wasn't tested long enough, and so they didn't trust it. Then comes to find out 3 years later, everything that everybody was saying is now being, confirmed as true. But why now? And it's because they have moved on and they're getting ready to go to the next thing. So you see, environmental is first because the real deal is the environment, the climate agenda. Y'all did not buy into it on your own, so they're going to force it on us. The social pressure is coming. The social pressure and the snitching and the vilification, like they did before, is coming back. It's going to be worse because this time it's really going to be tied to your job and money and buying and selling and governance. They're going to monitor us. They've already been doing it anyway, but they're going to monitor us, and they're going to punish us using local, state, and federal laws. The infrastructure is being laid here, but it's already in China and it's already in Europe. So if you want to see what's going on, take a look over there. Not a whole lot comes out in China. because it's a communist country and they control what comes out of it. But people are pushing back, but I don't know, what's going to happen. The West has admitted in the UN that their goals are not being achieved because people are not buying into it. So this has been a soft push. The hard push is coming, which is why they're destroying all the supply chains, they're having the wars, they're destroying the food. So again, if you could prepare, prepare.
In short, ESG states that environmental, social, and governance issues are more important than production output or profits. Logically, this imperative is incompatible with basic economics. Purposely pursuing more expensive energy sources, hiring people based on their personal identity rather than their abilities, and letting governmental and non governmental organizations make business decisions is a recipe for disaster.
Correct, because once you get that digital ID, or whatever the mark will be, it's going to be tied to a social credit score. So if you're a rebel, if you don't take your lollipops, if you don't do certain things, your credit score will be low. So you won't be able to get a job, or you may be able to get a low level job. You'll be shamed by society because you don't follow rules and you'll have a label. And most people love groupthink, so they want to be in the in crowd, in the popular places, and with the people who uh, are giving the appearance of doing the right thing. So people who rebel will be poorer. You may not be able to work, which is why you need to grow your own food. You may not have a job, so you can't buy anything. You're going to have some challenges trying to navigate this system, and so you really need to be preparing yourselves for it. If you're a believer, we don't know when the Most High is coming to get us, so we have to make choices now and starting to become comfortable with losing what you have in order to not take the mark is something that everybody who's a believer needs to get in their spirit. We don't know when Jesus is coming back, or Yahusha. We don't know when Yahusha is coming back to collect his people. So um, if you don't have it in your spirit, you're not going to compromise. You're going to compromise. This is why you have to have the mark of the Most High in your heart, in your head, so that it guides your actions. A lot of people don't have that, so they're going to willy nilly. They're in a new age spirituality, new age Jesus, which is really that white man, Caesar Borgia, um, not real Jesus, not the black Jesus. So there's going to be a culling, a spiritual culling, when all this goes online. So I'm laying it out there so you will understand this is what is coming. This is the last thing before the end. This is it in Sunday worship, which is blasphemy basically because it shows that you are worshiping the God of this system, this beast system, and not the Most High because He told us to worship on one day. Anyway, let's get back into it.
ESG's incompatibility with basic economics is why it's more accurate to refer.
All right, you see this right here? He got it. He even has it in his presentation, which is why I was just amazed. Sunday worship at ESG, online and in person. So when you go to church online, when you worship online, fellowship online, they know, they know. That's why it's going to be so important for you to get offline when this system comes online and go fellowship in person. But you're going to have like minded people in your area that you can go with, and they're going to have to be really close because if you buck this system, you're not going to be able to go anyplace. You're not going to get that digital ID to go get gas. You might not be able to use your car. You might have to walk. If you walk, you can be on camera. So they're going to know if you're in the city. That's why you need to be out of the city. Lots of advantages to not being in a smart city or near a smart city where you're going to be recorded and you're not going to be able to use technology. So I'm just putting it out here for you. You can think I'm crazy, but I'm telling you what's coming. Y'all know I wouldn't lie to you. Y'all may think I say some wild and outrageous stuff, but I'm telling you, this stuff is coming. And I could tell you assuredly because I read policy and I read these grant applications and proposals and notices that come out. It's in there. Nobody's hiding anything. So just pay attention to what's happening. This Sunday worship at ESG is coming. And when it does, I'm going to, and I'm going to do this video next. I'm going to do a breakdown of that video next. This is the mark of the beast because it involves worship. And that's what most people don't understand. It's a double entendre. You're worshiping on Sunday, but you're also worshiping the system. It means you fear the system and not the Most High.
Ideology rather than an investment methodology. Any company that complied with ESG criteria would quickly find itself out of business. This is why the ESG ideology was mostly ignored for the first 15 years of its existence. If you watched our first video about ESG, you'll know that the term was coined in a 2005 report written by the United Nations, the World Bank, and the Swiss government.
And all these people we did not elect. We don't have nothing to do with the UN. We don't have nothing to do with the Swiss bank. So, again, it's rich people and hand-picked people who come up with these ideas and then they feed their ideas to politicians with some money and then they come back and they roll them out on us. We don't know. We've been asleep for a long time.
You'll also know that ESG criteria were inconsistent and unclear, which contributed to their lack of adoption among businesses. Now, this all changed in mid-January 2020, when BlackRock CEO Larry Fink wrote an open letter to all the shareholders of the companies the asset manager is invested in, ordering them to comply with ESG.
After the 400-year curse was broken on the Most High's people, all hell broke loose. Notice when they started implementing all this stuff. They've had it in the works for a long time, but these people know the end is coming. So they're doing whatever they can to try to still maintain control and power and get as many people as they can to disobey the Most High's 10 Commandments so that they can go to hell with Satan and his minions. That's the goal. They know they're going to hell, but they want you to go to hell with them.
For context, BlackRock is the largest asset manager in the world with $8 trillion in assets under management.
And I will say for the record that the love of money is the root of all evil. Notice we're talking about money, and there's a reason that the Most High said that. One, because, to get us not to love money, because everything in life to me is about people. So I'm going to say, it's about people, caring for his people. And you don't necessarily need money all the time to do that. But when you have money and you have a lot of money, people tend to act like these rich folks who are making all these decisions to go against the will of the Most High and have us doing stuff that's not natural.
Management. In late January 2020, the world's elite gathered in Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum, or WEF's, annual conference. There, the big four accounting firms standardized ESG criteria with the help of an organization headed by Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan, who
You see that? Bank of America, all the banking people, all the money people, all the old money folks, all the evil folks linked to blood money.
is another key ESG player. If you watched our video about digital ID, you'll know that ESG criteria have since become synonymous with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. Now, for reference, the SDGs are a set of 17 goals which are supposed to be met by all 193 UN countries by 2030. The overlap between ESG and the SDGs comes from the strategic partnership the WEF signed with the UN in the summer of 2019. The announcement states that the WEF will help, quote, accelerate the development of the SDGs. In other words, they will provide the private sector funding and compliance. Besides the development of digital ID, SDGs mandate the development of things like smart cities, central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, and carbon credit scores to track and reduce your consumption.
All right, you see that? You won't be able to buy or sell without that mark, that digital ID.
All these technologies are being developed by companies closely affiliated with the WEF. But as I mentioned a few moments ago, ESG is incompatible with basic economics. This begs the question of why the private sector is on board. Well, the short answer is artificial profits. Companies which comply with ESG get lots of investment from asset managers and better loan terms from megabanks. Companies which refuse to comply with ESG see investments pulled and risk losing access to financial services altogether. Meanwhile,
All right, this is important because this is why your employers, if you're employed by someone, this is why they're going to give you hell on your job. This is why they're going to fire you. This is why employees are going to bully you, your coworkers, because they are going to miss out on money. Remember, the love of money is the root of all evil. They're going to miss out on money, and their social credit score will drop if you don't participate. So if you're going to be problematic, they're going to make your life hell. If you don't want that hell, while you still can, you can leave the city, find you a way to make it, find you some like minded people, get you some land, find you a way to make money so that you could pay your taxes. Like, I don't know how any of this works. I'm like serious. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know if it's even really going to be able to work because if you don't have a job, you don't have a digital ID, will there be some governments that opt out of it? I don't know. Because right now it's talking about big companies, but it is going to trickle down to the little small companies, businesses, and small governments. So the key will be, can you find a government or create some type of unincorporated government that can skirt taking part of this system? Because every government pretty much gets money from the state government. Is every state going to participate in it? That's why it's going to be really important for you to pay attention to your local, regional, and state laws because these things are going to be implemented on a state level. But to some extent, the federal government will regulate a lot of the federal level employment laws, but most of the stuff will take place in states. And wherever a business is, it must adhere to its respective states' laws and regulations. In addition to where if it's headquartered someplace else, like say Boeing may be in Washington State, but they have a site in South Carolina. So they'd have to adhere to the laws in Washington State and in South Carolina. Well, we just don't know. We don't know. Based on history, I would suspect that the South is going to rebel, but I don't know. I mean, the Saxons, I don't know. I just can't tell you what they do. They run everything. We don't run nothing. So we just got to wait and see. Roll the dice.
While on the public sector side, they risk unreasonable regulations and bad press from governmental and non governmental institutions working with these asset managers and megabanks. This terrifying situation comes from the unnatural accumulation of wealth caused by a financial system where limitless amounts of money can be created. TLDR: asset managers and megabanks borrow lots of money at low interest rates, then use this money to buy assets and influence and push their ideologies. Make no mistake, the ESG ideology would not exist in a sound money system. It would not be possible. Now, although the
Okay, did you hear that? This is why I titled this series The Infrastructure of the Beast System, because it makes no sense. It is unnatural. It is immoral. It is ungodly. Like there's nothing sane about it. It's like a big convoluted Ponzi scheme taken from the poor to give to the rich. Like this is the last bit. You know, it's like taking blood from a turnip. You can't get blood from a turnip. But this is what these people want. They don't want you to have nothing. They don't want it to be a middle class. They want everybody to be poor and they be rich. There'll be a few people in society, who have some jobs that'll give them a little bit of power and authority. And you may get a bag of potato chips or a little piece of meat or something sometime. But if you're living in the city, no, you're going to be toast. So if you live in the city, even if you live in the glorified suburbs, you better be trying to find you someplace to sell your house and try to engage in country living. You may want to get a fixer upper and something that's not moving ready, and figure out how you're going to survive without being a part of this system.
ESG push has come primarily from private sector entities affiliated with the WEF, there are a few public sector exceptions, and the biggest one seems to be the European Union, or EU. Lo and behold, the EU's ESG initiatives have their roots in the Next Generation EU Pandemic Recovery Plan. Not surprisingly, the implicit and explicit purpose of Next Generation EU is to help all European countries meet the UN's SDGs by 2030.
Okay, notice that he said it was tied in the EU's next generation pandemic plan. That's the flag that's letting you know there will be more pandemics, and the pandemics, along with these new infrastructures being laid, will be used to corral you slowly but constantly bombard you with things to make you so tired and so weary mentally and emotionally that you just give up and be like, rescue me, government, rescue me, business. I just want to go to work and live. And in the beginning, they're going to let you do that. But eventually, they're going to pull a rug from under you and you won't be able to, because they're going to have the system in place that they want to institute. And then they're going to be making your life hell.
The recovery plan is expected to cost over 1.8 trillion euros. In other words, it provides the public sector funding and compliance, complementary to the WEF's initiatives. One third of all this printed money will fund the EU's Green Deal, which was likewise announced at the start of the pandemic.
Y'all remember they had AOC and Bernie out there touting the Green New Deal, the Green New Deal, the Green New Deal. This is why these people are not any good. This is why I say they are not no good politicians. And you see, it's the Democrats. The Democrats are always pushing. All this stuff happens on the Democrats' watch. I don't know why people think the Democratic Party is so good. Like those people are evil. They're the people that let Reconstruction, the end of Reconstruction happen, turn their heads and allowed the South to basically usher in Jim Crow and black laws, black codes. So if you don't think they'll sell you down the road, y'all are crazy. But it's just the European Green Deal. You know, they're trying to institute the same thing here, and they did to some extent. They had to do it some other ways, but they got it done. And notice how they recruit these young leaders like AOC and the squad um, to help soften the blow, so to speak. Young, Hispanic, brown. It be your own people that will sell you under the bus because they know black people not buying it. We understand this, but it don't make no sense. But to white people, they've been on this climate change, all this nonsense forever. I'm gonna be vegan. Not saying there's just anything wrong with being vegan. It is definitely a much healthier lifestyle, but they do it not for the health purposes. They do it because they're saving the environment, because they don't want to kill animals. Same talking points that they're using now. So they basically, you know, sign the death certificate for the rest of us because they just believe in themselves so much. They don't understand that, at the end of the day, they always end up hurting themselves and others because they're short sighted.
Now, to give you an idea of just how ideological the Green Deal is, one of the three goals noted on its website is to ensure that, quote, economic growth is decoupled from resource use. This impossible goal is why it's appropriate that the EU's ESG regulation is part of the Green Deal. The ESG regulation in question is called the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, or CSRD. It was first introduced in April 2021, was passed in November 2022, and went into force this January. There are just two caveats here. The first is that the CSRD is technically a directive, not a regulation. Whereas an EU regulation requires all EU countries to comply with the EU law as it's written, an EU directive allows EU countries to adjust the EU law and take their time rolling it out. Confusing, I know. This ties into the second caveat, which is that going into force and being enforced are two different things. While the CSRD went into force this January, it won't actually be enforced until 2025. In fact, the
Okay, notice everything is centering around 2025. Everything is centering around 2025. Look for things to happen next year. Over the next 3 years, we're gonna catch up. But in order for this to come online, they have to create chaos, and so that is what is happening. They're slowly taking control over the water, they're taking control over the land, they're taking control over the food, and we're noticing and we're talking about it. So as long as we continue to talk about it and you share the information, talk about it amongst your circles, even with the idiots who just refuse to listen and want to be optimistic all the time, you will understand that they can't be successful as long as we're talking about it. But if we sleepwalk our way into this, it's a wrap. So you gotta share it, you gotta talk about it, you gotta tell people about what's happening because they're gonna force it on us.
The ESG reporting standards themselves won't even be published until June this year. To clarify, ESG reporting standards will be published in June. In 2024, EU companies will start collecting data using these standards. In 2025, this data will be reported. A spokesperson for the agency tasked with setting these standards recently specified that over 1,000 ESG data points will need to be reported.
Okay, so that means if they need to be reported, that means they're going to be collecting data. Where they're going to be collecting this data from anything that's connected to the internet, anything that is required to be digital. That's why in the last video, he was talking about the digitalization of society. Like that has to be rolled out. So again, that is why all this push for everybody to be connected. That's why they want you to work from home because you got to have internet in your house. You got to have a computer that can turn on your microphones and your cameras when they get ready. Um, that's why all these fiber optic lines are being laid in the um, internet because you have to have internet. You got to have a digital connection, a wireless connection, or internet service in order for you to be connected. And the goal is for everything everywhere to be connected.
In a December 2021 interview, one of the architects of the CSRD revealed that the purpose of the directive is to, quote, bring sustainability reporting to the same level as financial reporting. He also revealed that all of the reported data will have to be digitized and that this won't be easy or cheap. Naturally, failure to comply with the EU's ESG disclosures will result in sanctions, which should be, quote, effective, proportionate, and dissuasive.
Okay, pay attention. Here's the punishment piece. If they're going to do it to corporations, corporations will do it to you. If the governments will allow this to happen to businesses, they're going to allow it to happen to you. So you're going to be punished if you don't worship the beast. If you don't participate in the system, you will be punished. If you're not in the system, you don't have to worry about being punished. Now you will be known, they'll know about us because you don't participate in the system. But if you're not planning now, you don't have much time. You got about 2 years. If you're not planning and taking it serious, you're toast. Because if you're in a city, there's not going to be a way for you to escape um, being tracked in this reporting. Your social and your environmental footprints will be tracked, and you will be shamed. You will be prevented from buying and selling. You won't be able to enter businesses. You won't be able to go buy groceries. You won't be able to buy gas. You won't be able to pay your bills. Governments are probably going to require you to use your digital ID to prove who you are. You have to have a digital wallet, and in the wallet it's going to have your ID, your passport, all this stuff, your digital currency number, your wallet. So it's coming. You got to be trying to figure out how you're going to avoid it because punishment is coming for those who refuse.
The CSRD will require governments to publicly shame the companies that didn't comply, order them to stop violating ESG criteria, and, of course, fine them. The CSRD is expected to apply to around 50,000 companies operating in the EU, but the real figure will probably be much higher. This
Okay, so let me say something here. This is why folks are so teed off about the cancel culture. In one regard, you feel like, oh yeah, people should be punished and publicly shamed. They should lose money. But the flip side of that is now, they allowed it to become normal. They normalized this, and the reason that they did it. And notice these corporations understand what's going on because they are a part of this structure. Businesses are going to be shamed, and we are now it's normalized. So we expect it, we welcome it, we want it, and so we are willing participants now in the social aspect, the social shaming, the social piece of the ESG. So I just want to share that with you. When people talk about, oh, they should be punished, these people have been laying the groundwork. They use reverse psychology on us, and we've been idiots. So I just want to say that. Not that, I oppose people being punished because it's justice. I don't think people should profit when they do you dirty. But the public shaming piece, is what has been normalized. And so now corporations, the whole entire system, we, the consumers and the sellers, the businesses, understand what's coming. We're used to it. And so we're not going to reject it. We won't feel any way about it because it's been happening for a long time now.
This is in large part because of the absurdly low bar for what counts as a large company. An EU company counts as a large company if it meets two of the following three criteria. It takes in more than 40 million euros per year, has more than 20 million euros worth of assets, and/or has more than 250 employees. Publicly listed EU companies will also be required to comply with the CSRD regardless of their size. Moreover, the CSRD will also apply to non-EU companies which meet the following criteria. Takes in more than 150 million euros each year for a 2-year period, and has a subsidiary in the EU, or has a branch that takes in more than 40 million euros each year. Another big reason why the CSRD will apply to more than 50,000 companies is because of extremely concerning provisions in the CSRD, which, as I mentioned in the introduction, could apply to small and medium-sized businesses inside and outside of the EU, and possibly even to consumers. The most problematic provision is called double materiality. As per Big Four accounting firm KPMG, double materiality, quote, requires companies to identify both their impacts on people and environment, impact materiality, as well as the sustainability matters that financially impact the undertaking, financial materiality. Now, double materiality sounds like yet another buzzword at first listen, and its definition sounds no different. However, these two meaningless words open the door to forcing small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and possibly even consumers to comply with the CSRD's ESG reporting requirement.
All right, here it is. You will not be able to buy or sell if you don't comply with the beast.
This is simply because double materiality requires companies directly affected by the CSRD to collect ESG-related data from individuals and institutions which lie upstream and downstream from their actual business operations. So,
All right, so here you go. They're going to be tracking you. You're going to have that digital wallet. They're going to know if you went to the store, how much you spent, exactly what you purchased, when you went, you know, from point A to point B, how long you stayed, how much fuel you used, if you used lights, what type of lights, if you cooked, how did you cook. It's finna get real.
let's use the example of a car company to explain just how problematic this is. Okay, suppose you're a car manufacturer in Europe that falls under the CSRD. Making cars requires lots of raw materials, but let's say the biggest components are steel, plastic, and rubber. Imagine you buy your steel from a Russian company, your plastic from a Chinese company, and your rubber from a Thai company. It's January 2024 and the CSRD has gone into force. This means that you have to start collecting extensive ESG data. In addition to your own ESG data, you have to ask your largest suppliers to give you their ESG data because of double materiality. Note that this is just the upstream part of the provision. Now, by this point, you've made some cars that were sold through car dealerships and purchased by EU individuals and institutions. Because of double materiality, you must ask your largest consumers to provide their ESG data for your reporting purposes. This is the downstream part of the provision. So, fast forward to January 2025. It's time to report your digitized ESG data. Unfortunately, you couldn't collect any ESG data from your largest suppliers and only collected some ESG data from your largest consumers. Fortunately, you don't get fined because the EU went easy on companies for the first year. There's no evidence that the EU will go easy on companies in the first year, but let's roll with it. Now, because you're determined not to get fined in 2026, you decide to switch suppliers for your steel, plastic, and rubber and become more selective with whom you sell to. This puts your car company into bankruptcy, but BlackRock invests in you and Bank of America gives you a loan, so you stay afloat.
All right, so this is how they are going to be okay with this system. The businesses are going to be okay because they can make decisions that will be good for their business. Now, they will be in bondage too, like we will if we participate in the system. But, for whatever reason, people who have money are far more cowardly, I guess, than we are. And they're all going along with it. But, I don't know. Um, I just don't have any faith in corporations that they will do the right thing. I just don't. So, we can expect to uh, be punished or be impacted negatively because these corporations have to make these types of decisions. You be laid off. You could work for a company that loses a contract and then, they don't need you anymore. So there's all sorts of things that are getting ready to happen that's going to be so wild as this system transitions. I'm like him, I don't see how it's going to work. It's so convoluted and stupid, but, you know, just shut up and
It's now January 2026, and this time you managed to get all your largest suppliers and consumers to provide detailed ESG data. There's just one problem: they all scored poorly on ESG. They don't use enough renewable energy, their workforces aren't diverse enough, and they're not members of the WEF. Remember, environmental, social, and governance. BlackRock and Bank of America see your annual ESG report and inform you that they won't be able to provide any more financial support unless you force your suppliers and consumers to improve their ESG scores. They're kind enough to provide you with a list of ESG compliant suppliers and consumers. As expected, most of the list consists of companies that only exist because they've likewise received extensive financial support from BlackRock and Bank of America. You notice that a few companies on the list are not ESG compliant. They're just good friends with the UN and the WEF, so they get a pass. You decide to take the high road by convincing your existing suppliers and consumers to improve their ESG scores because
bullying. That's what it's called. Let's just call it what it is. It's bullying. It's just like it was. This is a step up from when the pandemic and folks were, if you don't take the lollipop, is something wrong with you. You're putting everybody at risk. Do this. We can't go outside if we don't get 100% compliance. It's that same mentality. So people are being encouraged or will be encouraged to force their people in their business circles to comply because they're going to bully each other and shame each other. And if you want to be in business and uh, make money, you got to do what they say do. So the bullying is coming, y'all. It's going to be ramped up.
you'd rather work with them than some UN or WEF crony company. By some miracle, you succeed, but you encounter another problem related to another so-called stakeholder. You forgot that under the CSRD, you don't just answer to governments and investors. You must also answer to the so-called silent stakeholder, which is nature itself. Believe it or not, but it's the unelected and unaccountable NGOs which represent the interests of nature under the CSRD. It turns out that someone at the World Meteorological Organization, or WMO, heard that you read their now deleted article about weather modification being done in over 50 countries as of 2017. They've also heard that you're not convinced that ESG compliance will ever fix the environment because of this fact. They even know that you've been sharing a downloaded video from Coin Bureau breaking down the facts about weather modification before it was deleted from YouTube in compliance with the EU's online censorship laws, which went into force in the summer of 2023. This is a real thing, by the way. Because of this, the WMO gives you a low ESG score, and since nature is the most important stakeholder, BlackRock and Bank of America stop providing financial support, and your company finally goes bankrupt. You tried so hard, you got so far, but in the end, compliance got you nowhere. Note that you can check out our video about weather modification using the link in the description. Anyways, if that elaborate example didn't make it clear enough, the CSRD has the potential to impact individuals and institutions around the world. Large companies in the EU will bear the brunt of the burden. The time and money it will take for them to report ESG criteria will be a massive expense. Any small or medium-sized businesses which lie upstream or downstream from these large companies will likewise be required to report, and the expenses for them will be even greater in percentage terms.
So people are going to be looking for data entry people to collect and maintain all this data. And if you've ever collected any data for anything related to money, it's a chore. So whatever infrastructure they're creating, it's going to be a pain in the butt. But what I want to say is the goal is to get everybody to go out of business except for the Richie Rich pantses. And the Richie Rich pants is going to produce everything. That's why they're going around here buying up all the food. They're trying to control all the water. They're telling you what you need and what you don't need, what you can eat, what you don't eat. You're seeing all these rules change about things that we've been using for centuries and they were okay. Suddenly they're bad. So, more sickness. You're going to be sick because you're going to be deficient. You're not going to be able to eat the foods that you need to eat. And you're going to be infected with all kinds of cootie bugs because they're going to get us with the cootie bugs that they're making in the labs. And you're going to need to go to the doctor. So everything, it's just a gradual, slow demolition to get to where they're trying to get us to. They're going to let you try. They're going to help you fail. And then in the end, you will have to go to them to get all your needs met. And you will be happy because you will have struggled. You will have been punished. And you'll see that their way is the best way. Um, it's crazy, but it's coming. And so, I just wanted to give you a little breakdown. I'm not going to do the whole video, but anyway, I think you got enough of what's coming to see how the infrastructure is being laid for this beast system. Now, part two, I'm going to go into the Sunday worship piece because what this video is not talking about is that when all this stuff doesn't work, because notice he kept talking about the environment, the environment, the environment. When they say environment, they're just talking about a climate agenda. You're going to have to take a day of rest in order to make up for all the stuff that don't work during the week. So you're going to work, you're going to eat, you're going to travel, you're going to ride public transportation, you're going to get your green sticks and your red sticks, your Soylent Green. But it's still not going to be enough. So you're going to have to do a day of rest. And the day of rest is going to be where you worship the beast, because you're going to worship and rest on the day that they told you to rest, or you're going to rest on the Sabbath, the holy Sabbath, the one that the Most High gave us to um, rest on. And this is where your choice will come. We're not there yet, but it's coming. So I just want to prepare you for what you're going to see. So when you do see it, you will understand what it really is. And when you see other things and people are talking about it was the mark, this was the mark, this it's not the mark. The mark is simple, but you got so many people out here who just don't understand because these people are playing psychological games with us. They understand most people not really paying attention to the buy or sell piece and getting into the weeds like I do. But I just want to warn you, pay attention to what's happening and plan your life so that you don't have to rely on this system. I don't know how we're going to do it. We're going to have to really lean on the Most High. Pray, repent, ask the Most High for forgiveness, ask the Most High to guide you and protect you. Read your Bible, not just the book of Revelation. You got to really understand what's happening. Judgment is going to come upon these people because our captivity is ending. And when I say I, it's the, you know, people of the book, just say that. People of the book's captivity are ending. This is ending. And so as we are freed, they're going to go in bondage. So a lot of these white people who you can't tell nothing, they're going into bondage. They don't understand it, but they will. But when they find out, it's going to be too late. They'll wish they had listened to us. So with that said, um, please like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel. I will do another series, part of this series in the next couple of days, but it's going to focus on the Sabbath. I'm going to teach you about this eco Sabbath that is coming, and then we'll do the last piece about the ESG and the Sunday worship because that will close out the whole series. It'll let you know what's coming and it will make sense. So hopefully you'll understand why it's important. And if you're not a believer, I know people hate religion or whatever, but they're not basing this stuff off of any other book. So I don't know why people can't see it. But anywho, if you are black, African American, y'all better be trying to figure this thing out and get in the word, read that Bible, because that book is all about us and our captivity and our disobedience. And you do not want to be disobedient right about now because this is the end. This the end. This the end of the road. It won't be no other do-overs. They keep talking about 2050 and all that. Won't it's not gonna last that long. It's imaginary. So anywho, I'm Marley K and I'm out.